All her life she had believed in something more, in the mystery that shape-shifted at the edge of her senses. It was the flutter of moth wings on glass and the promise of river nymphs in the dappled creek beds. It was the smell of oak trees on the summer evening she fell in love, and the way dawn threw itself across the cow pond and turned the water to light. When she slowly straightened, the land was vast before her. The sun was setting down the river, casting a cold pink hue along the white-capped mountains that framed both sides of the valley. Upriver, the willow shrubs and gravel bars, the spruce forests and low-lying poplar stands swelled to the mountains in a steely blue. No fields or fences, roads or homes, not a single living soul as far as she could see in any direction, only wilderness. It was beautiful, Mabel knew, but it was a beauty that ripped you open and scoured you clean so that you were left helpless and exposed, if you lived at all. She turned her back to the river and walked home. The lantern was still burning. The kitchen window glowed as she approached the cabin, and when she opened the door and stepped inside, warmth and flickering light overcame her. Everything was unfamiliar and golden. She had not expected to return here. He went to shake the reins, but then peered one last time over his shoulder and saw it. A flash of movement, a smudge of brownish red. The horse snorted. Jack turned slowly in the wagon seat. A red fox darted among the fallen trees. It disappeared for a minute, but popped up again, closer to the forest, running with its fluffy tail held low to the ground. It stopped and turned its head. For a moment its eyes locked with Jack's, and there, in its narrowing golden irises, he saw the savagery of the place, like he was staring wilderness itself straight in the eye. Next evening the snow fell with dusk. The first flakes clumped together as they twisted and fluttered to the ground. First just a few here and there, and then the air was filled with falling snow, caught in the light of the window in dreamy swirls. It brought to Mabel's mind how it was to be a little girl, kneeling on a sofa at the window to watch winter's first snowflakes filter through the streetlights. Mabel was at the window again. The snow fell faster and thicker. As she watched, Jack walked out of the barn carrying a lantern, and the snow eddied around him in the circle of light. He turned his head as if he had sensed her eyes on him, and the two of them looked at each other across the distance, each in their pocket of light, snow like a falling veil between them. Mabel couldn't remember the last time they had so deliberately gazed at each other, and the moment was like the snow, slow and drifting. When she first fell in love with Jack, she had dreamed she could fly, and that on a warm, inky black night she had pushed off the grass with her bare feet to float among the leafy treetops and stars in her nightgown. The sensation had returned. Through the window the night air appeared dense, each snowflake slowed in its long tumbling fall through the black. It was the kind of snow that brought children running out to their doors, made them turn their faces skyward and spin in circles with their arms outstretched. The snow was perfect. It stuck in thick layers as they rolled it into balls along the ground. Mabel made the last smallest one for the head, and Jack stacked them one on top of the other. The figure barely stood above his waist. They patted snow into the cracks between the snowballs, smoothed the edges. He walked away from the light of the lantern and cabin window into a stand of trees. He came back with 2 birch branches, and he stuck one into each side of their creation. Now it had arms. "A girl. Let's make it a little girl," she said. "All right." He knelt and began shaping the bottom into a skirt and spread out from the snow girl. He slid her hands upward, shaving away the snow and narrowing the outline until it looked like a little child. When she stood up, she saw Jack at work with a pocket knife. "There," he said. He stepped back. Sculpted in the white snow were perfect, lovely eyes, a nose, small white lips. She even thought she could see cheekbones and a little chin. "Oh, you don't like it?" He sounded disappointed. "No, oh no, she's beautiful. I just didn't know." How could she speak her surprise? Such delicate features formed by his callous hands, a glimpse at his longing. Surely he too had wanted children. They had talked about it so often when they first married, joking that they would have a baker's dozen, but really planning on only 3 or 4. What a fun Christmas would be with a household full of little ones, they told each other their first quiet winter together. There was an air of solemnity as they opened each other's presents, but they believed someday their Christmas mornings would reel with running children and squeals of delight. She sewed a small stocking for their firstborn, and he sketched plans for a rocking horse he would build. Maybe the first would be a girl, or maybe it would be a boy. How could they have known that 20 years later they would still be childless, just an old man and an old woman alone in the wilderness? As they stood together, the snow fell heavier and faster, making it difficult to see more than a few feet. "Here they are," she called across the yard when she came back out. "Mittens and a scarf for the little girl." She ran to a corner of the cabin where wild cranberry bush grew. She picked a handful of the frozen berries, returned to the snow girl, and carefully squeezed the juice onto her lips. The snow there turned a gentle red. She and Jack stood side by side and gazed at their creation. "She's beautiful," she said. "Don't you think? She's beautiful. She did turn out, didn't she?" It was the quiet that pulled him out of his gloom, a quiet full of presence. He brought his head up. It was the child. She was before him, just a few yards away. She stood atop the snow, arms at her sides, the hint of a smile at her pale lips. White fur trimmed her coat and leather boots. Her face was framed by the velvety brown of a sable hat, and she wore Mabel's red scarf and mittens. The child was dusted in crystals of ice, as if she had walked through a snowstorm or spent a brilliantly cold night outdoors. Jack would have spoken to her, but her eyes, the broken blue of river ice, glacial crevasses, moonlight, held him. She blinked, her blonde lashes glittering with frost, and darted away. Outside, the air was clean and cool against her face, and she could smell the wood smoke from the chimney. She let the snow float around her, and then Mabel did what she had as a child, turned her face to the sky and stuck out her tongue. The swirl overhead was dizzying, and she began to spin slowly in place. The snowflakes landed on her cheeks and eyelids and wet her skin. Then she stopped and watched the snow settle on the arms of her coat. For a moment she studied the pattern of a single starry flake before it melted into the wool, here and then gone. You did not have to understand miracles to believe in them, and in fact Mabel had come to suspect the opposite. To believe, perhaps you had to cease looking for explanations, and instead hold the little thing in your hands as long as you were able before it slipped like water between your fingers. She felt the awe of walking into a cathedral, the sense that she was being shown something powerful and intimate, and in its presence must speak softly, if at all.